come calling all that often anymore, unless it's in the movies. Or do they? Last year, Canadians reported 141 UFO sightings. Most were in the West, but you folks in the East have also had your fair share. Today on Coast to Coast on Canada Live, do you believe in UFOs? Have aliens come calling on you or your friends? We'd like to hear from you on that extraterrestrial topic. Your views, have you seen one, or do you just believe? We'll get to it right after the news from our national newsroom in Toronto.
Newsroom. There was an outcry in the House of Commons today over the reported salaries of the top executives of Canadian National Railways. Figures made available in the U.S. show the top 5 executives of CN got raises just under 19% last year. The increases were given at the same time CN gave its unionized workers increases of 4%. And that prompted the Leader of the Opposition to demand CN roll back the wages of its executives.
How can the government possibly defend these massive increases in the salaries of CN executives when at the same time, in the same period, ordinary workers at CN got increases of only 4.5%? So my question is very straightforward. Will the government order an immediate salary rollback for these executives, a rollback to the same rate it expects Canadians to live with? Will it roll back these salaries, yes or no?
Madam Speaker, I would like to tell my honourable colleague how these compensation numbers are arrived at. Under the former government, an independent commission was set up to report so that salaries for Governor and Council appointees would be set in an independent way from government. That's the Burns Commission. And the Burns Commission is the one that makes the recommendation both for the salary ranges and for the bonuses to be paid when performance exceeds what had been predicted.
Canada's unemployment rate held steady at 7.2% in April, according to Statistics Canada. There were fewer manufacturing jobs across the country, but that loss was offset by an increase in the number of people working in the service industry and other sectors. An explosion and fire ripped through a 737 jet at the Manila airport today. 7 people were killed and more than 80 others were hurt. Investigators are checking into the possibility that a bomb was placed on board the plane. The Philippine Airlines jet was preparing for takeoff when there was an explosion in the cabin. That triggered a fire which took just 4 minutes to sweep through the plane. Most of the passengers managed to escape through emergency exits. There were 119 people on board the plane when the explosion occurred. The cyclone that's been battering southern India for 3 days has now killed at least 114 people and made thousands homeless. Floods whipped up by the storm have submerged or marooned scores of villages along the Bay of Bengal. Prime Minister V.P. Singh is visiting stricken areas of Andhra Pradesh state today to see the damage and check on rescue operations. People who live along the Trinity River in Texas are preparing for more flooding over the weekend. Both Texas and Arkansas have been suffering through the worst floods in years. Farmers and ranchers have lost hundreds of millions of dollars worth of crops and cattle. We have 2 reports on the flood and its victims. The first from Kenley Jones.
1950s, saucers and aliens, it seems, were everywhere back then. UFOs don't visit us quite so often these days, but according to a new study, they do drop by from time to time, 141 times last year in Canada, to be precise. Chris Ratowski coordinated that study. He's going to join us to talk about UFOs right after this report from Bob Sadeko at the Canada Live desk.
A new study out today by Quebec's Statistics Bureau shows that the population in most of that province's rural areas will not grow very much over the next 20 years. Montreal demographer says that slow growth will eventually turn into a decline in the population, and it'll cause problems that the province is yet equipped to deal with. George Matthews says the government could deal with the population decline by amalgamating several smaller communities into one. Fisheries ministers from the 4 Atlantic provinces will be in Ottawa today to meet with the federal fisheries minister, Bernard Valcourt. They'll be talking about Ottawa's $500 million aid package for the fisheries, which was announced this week. The ministers are expected to be telling Valcourt the bailout will not solve their problems. A big chunk of that money is directed at getting people out of the fishery. And construction electricians are going on strike at midnight tonight, which will shut down commercial building projects all across Ontario. The 15,000 unionized workers have voted overwhelmingly in favor of walking off the job. The last electrician strike in 1988 lasted for 3 weeks in Ontario. The 2 sides apparently are a long way apart, with no further talks being scheduled. The electricians are looking for a wage increase of $7 an hour spread out over 2 years. Unionized contractors are offering less than half that amount. Those are some of the stories we're keeping an eye at from the Canada Live desk at this hour.
How about a new stereo for that last bite of crust? What about it?
McCain croissant pizza with the crust nobody leaves behind.
Have you ever been lonely? Have you ever been blue? Have you ever loved something just as I love you? How could I go on living now that we're apart?
Can you think of any other drink you'd leave your best friend for?
Have you ever been blue?
Oh no. Yes, it is just going.
What? It's really burning up in there. It's hot out here. Am I whining about it? Well, you don't have to get rude.
Yes, you do. Rude air conditioners are quiet and reliable, keeping you cool and comfortable with lower energy bills.
You want to get comfortable? Get rude.
To get comfortable, you gotta get rude.
Well, over the next couple of hours here on NewsWorld, we will have a documentary from Burma as it